Welcome, everyone, to our latest Insight interview for Site Leaders Connect. We are so excited today to have Jessica Reed with us to share with all of our audience. So, Jessica, can you please introduce yourself, tell us what your role is, and why you decided to become an educational leader?
Hey, like you said, my name is Jessica Reed. I currently am a middle school special ed teacher, so I do 6th and 7th grade resource, and I do one class of inclusion. I recently have about to finish my EDS in instructional technology. I graduate in July. Fingers crossed, two more classes, and then I recently just became a Google certified trainer.
Congratulations.
Last week, yes. Why did I become an educational leader? I have finally been able to be at a school system where I am encouraged to be a leader, if that makes any sense. And we just became 1-on-1 with Chromebooks. So we are lacking in our training. And so I'm kind of using my school system as my guinea pig for all of my different projects. So that's kind of pushed me into more of a leadership position.
Excellent. Thank you. So I know you've got some great background because you've got the Google certified trainer experience now, but you also have the special ed background. So what can you tell us about that? What insight do you have for our audience?
Well, when it comes to using Google in special education, it's really not just sticking a kid in front of a computer. You can actually use Google Classroom. One of my favorite apps to use that you can use in correlation with Google Classroom is Flipgrid. I have several students that they really stink at writing. Like they're not able to put things down on paper. So if they're able to actually record themselves speaking, they can get their point across. And I can definitely know if a kid, understands a concept. Within the special education for Google Classroom, you can also use it for collaboration, which is what I've tried to structure with one of my teachers. Her name is Miss Wright and I'm Miss Reed, and we teach ELA together. So we're like read and write.
Oh, cute. I like it.
Yeah, we have t-shirts and everything. We have several t-shirts. But we use the Google Calendar to kind of figure out who's doing what lesson, or you're able to use Google Classroom just to assign simple activities to students, to really differentiate your instruction. You never want to use the Google Classroom as your main source of instruction. It's just there to enhance it. So, and like I just said, we have just become 1-to-1 Chromebooks. So we have some teachers who are diving head first in, but some teachers who are just like, I don't know. But it's a really cool way to communicate with the students.
Excellent. And what I like about what you said was it's not, you're increasing accessibility essentially, because you said if you want those to know if the students know the content, if it's not a writing assignment, if you're not assessing them on writing, allowing them to speak is a great way to increase accessibility. So I think that's awesome. Another thing I heard you say that I think could be very helpful for any of our leaders and administrators that are listening is you talked about the calendar feature and how you have shared calendars and how that helps a lot. So can you speak a little bit more to that? Is that something that you've begun to teach other teachers as well? How do you think that our leaders could really maximize that Google feature?
I actually just talked to my principal this morning. I popped in her office and I was like, hey, do you want to meet sometime this summer to possibly talk about how we can effectively use Google Calendar? We have used it, we're trying to use it is the better term. With teachers, you guys can figure out what dates, but for administration, you can really give your whole school on the Google Calendar, and then you can get, as a special ed person, I'm our lead special ed chair. It would actually be really great because that way we have all the documentation of when we have IEPs, because we've had several instances where we have to have a teacher come to the meeting, but they can't because we have another meeting. Like there's a lack of communication, so the Google Calendar can actually be a source of everybody gets to, and I apologize for my hands, but I get really excited when I talk about Google, being able to communicate with one another. So that's what I'm kind of hoping we can use, because I've had teachers, when you are a lead, everybody just wants to tell you their opinion. And so I've had several teachers who are like, I want to come to the meetings, but I can't. So, just trying to get everybody happy and on the same page.
Excellent. Have you used the Google? You say you use Google Classroom quite a bit, and so my question is: do you use that platform to collaborate with other teachers? As for those that maybe you share students, do you like invite them as a co-teacher? Is there anything? Is there any collaboration there that you've done with teachers as well, or has it mostly just been the students at this point?
No, it's actually, we really, really encourage that if you are a Google Classroom, that you invite your co-teacher so you guys can both be on it. I'm a part of my read and write, and it actually is really neat because I'm able to grade assignments and I can post just as freely as she does. Now, with my own particular, for my special ed teachers, I've created a Google Classroom just so I have a place to load all the documents, reminders, announcements, any of that kind of stuff, just so we can have it in one particular place. But we definitely encourage the co-teaching aspect to share the Google Classroom, because that way co-teaching is really great, because you shouldn't just have one person doing all the work. You have two minds who went to college. You have one who's good in special ed, you have one who's good in the subject matter, or vice versa. And it just should make it easier. It shouldn't make it harder.
I love that. So you're talking about a collaborative approach, essentially between content teachers and special education specialists, which I love, and how we can use technology to enhance like that communication and the collaborative aspect. So that's great. I also liked how you talked about how you use Google Classroom, not just for students, but as a platform to share things to your team, essentially, for those that you are leading. And so I'm thinking that's something that even administrators could send out information and things to their staff. So is that something, what do you think would be the best features of Google Classroom? How do you disseminate information that way? And how could you coach these administrators at how simple that would be?
That's a really good question. We actually, our learning coach here actually uses Google Classroom to assign us. We've just started a new planning tool called LFS. It's learning for, anyway, it's LFS. It's a lot different than what your typical plan book where you list the standard and you list your activity. It's you kind of think of what is the overall goal and then you do backwards planning. And so she has actually posted and assigns assignments to all of us through the Google Classroom. And it's great, except when you look and you see everything's not done and you're like, ah. But for administrators, it can be something that like once they do one time, it's just continually using it. I think Google Classroom is just like anything. It, like when we first started using email in the classroom, now that's the way you communicate with everybody, or text messaging. It's just something that you would have to constantly get practice. As long as you have one person in your building who gets Google or Google Classroom or anything, you're good, because they can help you through any of it. Or you can always Google it. Not trying to be funny, but you can.
That's true. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would say that I like how you say you only need one person that knows this platform that can kind of teach everyone else and train them and get them going. And even for those school sites that are not Google, maybe they're Microsoft, maybe they have a different platform, they have Canvas, whatever it may be, the same concept applies. That yes, you can Google or go to YouTube to find a tutorial to figure out something so that you can get some more training, essentially for free, by the way, about that. So from Google certified trainers like yourself and others. So yeah, that's great. Do you have any other tips as far as accessibility features that you've seen helpful on the Chromebooks or on any of the Google apps for your students?
I do. I actually created a web quest recently that was one of my assignments in one of my classes for my EDS. And it was a really neat idea because I use Screencastify for several things, where the idea was that the kids would take a poem and an article and they would compare and contrast and write just a paragraph. But for each of the sections, I used a Google site because that was just easier for me to maneuver than Weebly. And I was able to create something, but every single time I had on you build on the site. Like if there was a passage, I recorded myself reading the passage using Screencastify, which, you get like 50 free videos a month, anything less than 10 minutes, which I love Screencastify. Or then and I probably shouldn't have done this, but cheater way, if there was a video on YouTube, I would have recorded it using Screencastify or any of that kind of stuff, just so we could have access to it for the kids, because not everybody's going to remember their Google documentation or their Google email to get into, to watch a video. So it was just really neat because every single time the kids would click on something, there's either my face or my voice to kind of go through the different stages. And for accessibility, you just want to make it as easy as you can for the kids.
Yeah.
Kind of sometimes when you plan things, at least I do, I tend to over plan and I make things a lot more complicated than they need to be. And kids nowadays, they're so smart. You don't need to really, you just need to lay the basis so that they can continue to work. So it's more of like project-based learning where they're more of facilitating their own learning and you're just kind of helping them, if that makes any sense.
All right. So thank you, Jessica. Now, for those of our viewers that are unfamiliar with, like, what is Screencastify? How do I download it? Is it an app? Is it like I know it's an extension, but for those who don't even know what an extension is, like what is this Screencastify thing and how can I get it?
Okay, awesome. So if you have a Google Chromebook, or even if you just have a regular program, Google Chrome has its own web store, kind of like Apple does for your phone, your app store. And what it is, it's apps and extensions. And all you would do, you Google Chrome store, and you would, on the search box, you would type in Screencastify. And all you do is you download it, and it saves it to your Omnibox, which is also known in Google world, it's Omnibox, but it's also known as your web browser. And it's just a little extension that's going to be right on the top to your right of your bar. And whenever you want to do something, record it, or if you even want to, one way I know administrators could do this is if they had an announcement or something that they needed to share with their staff, they could just record themselves. Or if like there's a new form or any of that kind of thing, they could record themselves, similar to how we're doing now. And you get 50 videos a month for less than 10 minutes. You can't beat that, because we know our kids, at least my brain, I only can last about 7 minutes without going squirrel like the dog in Up. So it's
Absolutely.
a great tool, and it's free.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Do you have any other before I ask you for more information and such, do you have any other insight you wanted to share with our network?
No, just, encourage your special ed teachers to use Google Classroom. They can create portfolios for their students. They can use a Google site and create portfolios. That way you can keep data samples, progress monitoring, because data is king. You can't make anything happen unless you have the data to prove it. So Google Sites, Google Classroom is a great way to keep track of your kids.
Awesome. Thank you. So Jessica, if there are some people that are watching and they want to know more about connecting with you or learning more about the topic that you've spoken to, where would you lead them?
Like my personal information?
Sure. If you're on social media or...
Yeah. Okay, so I'm on Twitter. I'm at KY Girl in Alabama. It's Kentucky Girl in Alabama. I'm a University of Kentucky graduate.
Okay.
In Alabama. And then I also am on Instagram as JL Reed 2014. And then I usually, Twitter's the best way. Twitter's the coolest thing ever for PLNs, or, for Professional Learning Network, because I found you via Twitter. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. So it's a really, really neat way to keep connected with people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jessica, so much. And I agree that social media is an amazing way to connect. If that's your thing, if you are wanting to connect and find more educators on Twitter or find their websites, go ahead and check out our siteleadersconnect.org searchable database of educational leaders, and you can find out what their expertise is and connect with them via whatever information they shared. Their website, their Twitter handle, their email, etc. So definitely check that out. Thanks so much for listening, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks so much, Jessica.
Thank you.